I'm Phil from Lightside Facts. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for joining us on this video. Today we're going to take a look at some historical facts. Did you know that history classes are often wrong? That historical facts are purely invented, modified and transformed over the centuries. Here are 5 examples that will amaze you. Are you ready to hear the truth? Before starting, I would like to thank all those who put a blue thumb, who shared this video and who subscribed to advance this very small channel that deserves to be in the big ones. Welcome and join the light side. Fact number 1. The pyramids of Egypt were erected by slaves. Wrong. Today, many people tend to consider that the pyramids of the Giza Plateau, these colossal monuments, could only have been erected by servile labor. Indeed, cinema and television contributed greatly to the popularization of this image of Epinal, on which we can see rows of slaves, whipped by their cruel jailers, sweating blood and water in order to move imposing blocks of stone. Recent archaeological excavations have recently taught us that the reality was undoubtedly quite different. At that time, the majority of the workers were not slaves, but workers and craftsmen, paid by the pharaoh. It should be noted that the neighboring villages willingly participated in the construction work, sending food and men to help the workers already on site. Thus, the construction of the pyramid was considered a spiritual and unifying act, symbolizing the unification of Egypt. Indeed, the country had been divided for several centuries between the rulers of Upper Egypt, in the south, and those of Lower Egypt, in the north. Number 2. In the Middle Ages, people didn't bathe. Wrong. For contrary to what one might think, people in the Middle Ages were much cleaner than the contemporaries of Louis XIV or even Napoleon. In the cities, public baths developed considerably from the end of the 13th century. 2 centuries later, the ovens reached their peak, becoming real living places. Indeed, the baths were mixed, and one could take one's meals there. Number 3. Arabic numerals were invented by the Arabs. In fact, the figures we use today are of Indian, not Arab origin. Thus, the ancestor of our digital system appeared in India, in the region of Gandhara, today located between Afghanistan and Pakistan, in the 4th century BC. Fact number 4. Jesus was born on December 25th, year 0. Wrong again. The first thing to point out here is that the year 0 never existed. The people of that time went directly from 1 BC to 1 AD. Remember that at the birth of the Messiah, the calendar we use today did not exist. At that time, Rome was the first power in the known world, having extended its influence over all the lands bordering the Mediterranean Sea. The Romans therefore used the Julian calendar, established by Julius Caesar in 46 BC. The aim of the victorious Gallic Empire was to reform the Roman calendar, dating back to the origins of Rome, which was very complicated. Indeed, this calendar was based on the Greek lunar calendar, and counted a little more than 300 days per year. In order to obtain a complete year, the consuls added intercalary months, although they sometimes forgot to do so, inducing a shifting of the seasons during the year. The Julian calendar, a true solar calendar, thus included 365 days, 366 every 4 years, and fixed the beginning of the year at January 1st. However, year 1 of the Romans was obviously not the birth of Christ, but the date of the foundation of Rome, April 21, 753 according to the legend. For example, in 2009, we would be in the year 2762 ab urbe condita. During the first centuries of our era, the Greeks celebrated the birth of Jesus on January 6, on the occasion of the Epiphany. Note, however, that the Bible mentions the presence of shepherds at the birth of Christ, suggesting that he would have been born at the time of lambing. However, in 354, Pope Libertus decided to postpone this celebration until 25 December. In fact, his aim was to put an end to the pagan feast of Sol Invictus. It was a solar deity, celebrated on December 25, the day after the winter solstice. This calendar based on the foundation of Rome was, however, used for several centuries after the birth of Jesus. Thus, it was not until 525 that the Scythian monk Denis the Little, Dionysius Exiguus in Latin, based on the Bible, estimated the birth of the Messiah in 753 ab urbe condita. Thus, this year 753 became the year 1 BC. It should be noted, however, that Dionysius the Little did not provide our era with a year 0. Indeed, the latter named this ghost year nulla, which means none. The year 754 ab urbe condita thus became the year 1 Anno Domini, year of the Lord. This dating, over the years, was finally accepted throughout Europe. Then, in the 16th century, Pope Gregory XIII established the Gregorian calendar, thus correcting the errors of the Julian calendar. This is the calendar we use today. However, it was finally realized many centuries later that Denis Lapetit's estimate was wrong. In fact, it was discovered that the Jewish historian Flavius Joseph, author of the 1st century AD, stated in one of his works that King Herod, governor of Judea at the birth of Jesus, had died in 750 AD ab urbe condita. However, the Bible indicates that this sovereign died a few days after the birth of Christ. The Messiah would thus have been born around the year 750 after the foundation of Rome, that is to say around 4 before himself. Fact number 5. Another lie in the history with big H. Gutenberg invented the printing press. The invention of printing marked a milestone in the history of mankind, as did the appearance of language and the internet. However, for several millennia, from the scribes of ancient Egypt to the copyist monks of the Middle Ages, technology did not permit the rapid dissemination of knowledge. But, as we all learned at school, Johannes Gutenberg gave birth to printing in the 15th century. This new invention, which met with rapid success, was one of the major events of the Renaissance. However, it seems that reality, once again, is much more complex than one might think. In fact, mankind very quickly discovered the printing process, xylography making its appearance in China in the 6th century AD. Finally, metallic characters made their appearance in Korea at the beginning of the 13th century. In 1450, Gutenberg managed to convince a wealthy banker, Johann Fust, to finance his printing project. Fust agreed, lending 800 florins to his partner, a considerable sum for the time. The two men decided to publish a Bible, the only work that was at the time capable of being an immediate success. Printing continued from 1452 to 1454, but the Gutenberg Bible was not as successful as expected. Dissatisfied with the loss of large sums of money, Johann Fust took the case to court. When the court ruled in his favor, the banker had Gutenberg's printing shop seize the case and proceeded to publish the Psalmorum Codex, a collection of psalms in Latin and in color, which met with some success. Fust later moved to Paris, contributing to the development of the printing industry. As for Gutenberg, he was ruined by his association with Fust. In 1465, the Archbishop of Mainz granted him an annuity and the title of nobleman, but he died 3 years later, largely unknown to his contemporaries. As we have seen, Gutenberg did not invent printing, which appeared in China in the 6th century, nor did he invent metal type, which appeared in Korea in the 13th century. However, the latter was the first to use a printing press, unknown to Orientals, but also printing ink, thicker than the Indian ink used in the East, or the ink mixed with water of the copyist monks. Moreover, if the Gutenberg Bible was not as successful as expected, printing spread within a few decades to all the major cities of Europe. Proof of this craze is the fact that 200 million books were printed as early as the 16th century, a figure that tripled in the following century. Now we move on to fact number 6. Listen up, folks. You are going to be amazed by this revelation, which will be the last one this time. The Woodstock Festival was held in Woodstock. Wrong. Contrary to what one might think, this world-famous festival was not held in Woodstock at all. At the beginning of 1969, a young hippie named Michael Lang had the idea of organizing a music festival to finance the purchase of his recording studio in Woodstock. Having already organized the Miami Pop Festival in May 1968 in Howland Beach, Florida, Lang nevertheless approached John Roberts and Joel Roselman, two young New York investors, with whom he founded Woodstock Ventures. Initially, it was decided to hold the festival in Wallkill, a village 50 kilometers south of Woodstock. However, several complaints were lodged by local residents, who refused to allow several thousand young hippies to arrive in their homes. When Wallkill refused to host the festival, a farmer named Max Yasgur offered to rent his estate to the organizers. Lang agreed and paid Yasgur $50,000 to rent his White Lake property near the town of Bethel. The Woodstock Festival, scheduled for August 15th, 16th and 17th, 1969, was held about 100 kilometers from the town of Bethel, Woodstock. But a major incident completely changed the situation. While the organizers had planned for only 50,000 people to attend, the festival welcomed nearly 550,000 participants. However, despite the huge traffic jams created by the event, the heat, and the high population density, The festival took place in good conditions. U.S. Army helicopters were requisitioned in order to provide the participants with food, water, and medicine. While the big names of American rock music took turns on stage, Santana, Janis Joplin, Joe Cocker, Jimi Hendrix, etc., the organizers decided to make access free at the end of the first day. Moreover, it was decided to extend the festival by one day, on August 18, 1969. Following the departure of the participants, the site was particularly damaged, and Yasker was ordered to pay $35,000 in damages to his neighbors. However, the festival organizers, who had meanwhile sold their rights to Warner Brothers, gave the farmer an additional $50,000 in compensation. That's it for today. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't hesitate to put a blue thumb. I thank in advance all those who will do so, who will subscribe, and who will put a comment to reference this channel. Thank you all. And most importantly, have a good day, or night depending on the time you watch this video. See you soon.